it's Miss Vasvary here. It's still just like an old person day, and we're going to be making some 4-ingredient bread. This will practice your measuring skills. There's a little math activity at the end, so follow along and see what you can do at home. Our first ingredient we're going to need is 350 milliliters of water. Now, I have a measuring cup right here, and it goes up to, as you can see, 250 milliliters. But that's not enough. So I'm going to add my 250 milliliters, and I know that I want to get to 350 milliliters. Well, my ones and my tens are the same. This 100 is just one lower than this 100. So I know that from 250, if I have 250, if I add 100, I add my ones, they're still 0. I add my tens, that's still a 5 for 50. And I add my hundreds, that's going to be a 3 for 300, 350. So I need my 1 cup of measuring, which is 250 milliliters, and I need 100 more than that. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. Make sure that your water is not too cold, otherwise the yeast won't work as much and your bread won't get quite as fluffy. So I'm going to start pouring. It might spill a little bit, that's okay. I'm going to angle you down right here. There we go. I'm going to pull 1 all the way up to 250. Oh, there we go. Spill a little. Oh, I got a lot more in there. That's okay. All right. 250. Pour that in. I probably have about 50 milliliters already in there, so I'll go between 50 and 100. This is not a very good pourer. I should have picked something else. Oh well. Got my extra 100. Pour that in. And this is a very forgiving bread, so that means if you do make mistakes and don't measure exactly well, it's kind of okay. I have never really had a big problem with it. Here's the salt, and I know that 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters. So I'm going to open my salt, and if I get extra, that's okay, but I don't want less. So I'm going to make a heaping teaspoon, which means you fill your teaspoon up, and if it's tall, it's okay. Sprinkle that in. We'll mix it up in a minute. All right, our salt's in there. Time for the yeast. So if 1 teaspoon was 5 milliliters, and I just need a little more than 1 milliliter, I'm not going to measure perfectly. I'm just going to say, well, if this is about 5, if I cut that into 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for fifths, as long as I get a little bit in there, maybe that's a little bit much, a little scoop like that, I'm pretty close. And for this bread, like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. So I know that I'm close. I did about 1/5 of a teaspoon. I'm going to shake that in, give it a little stir. And I'll put my spoon in my measuring cup for now. Next, we're going to want to add the flour. Now, I have a different measuring cup for my flour so that it doesn't get all stuck in the water. So let me see if I can go find that. Where did I put it? All right, I found it. Here I have my flour. It's just regular all-purpose flour, nothing special. I'm going to be looking to get, see here, 750 milliliters of flour. So I have my 1 cup measurer, and I know that it is 250, just like it was before. So if I have 250 milliliters in one of these cups, let's see what happens if I add another cup. So what's 250 plus 250? Well, let's add what we know. I know 0 plus 0 for our ones is still, oops, I'll put it down here, is still going to be 0 for our ones. 5 plus 5 for our 50s. Now 50 plus 50, I know that's 100. So I can't put my 100 in my 10 space anymore. I have to move it to my 100 space. So I'm going to remember that I need an extra 100 when we count for hundreds. So I'm going to put a 0 there for now, because I don't have any 10s. Then we're going to look, what's 200 plus 200 plus this extra 100 we got from the 50s. So 200 plus 200 is going to be 400. And I add one extra 100, boop, 500. So I know that, that's a funny 5, that's okay. I know that 2 cups is 500 milliliters. Let's see, are we there yet? Do we have 750 yet? No, still only 500. Let's see what happens if I add another cup to that. So 500 plus 250. Let's add it the same way. First, let's add our ones. 0 plus 0 is 0. Now we have 0 plus 5. We have no 10s here, but we have a 5 meaning 50 here. So 0 plus 5 is still 5. And with our hundreds, we have 200 plus 500. I know that 2 plus 5 makes 7. So 750 if I have 3 cups. Let's see, is that what I wanted to make? Yes, it was. So I'm going to add 3 of these cups, or what that makes, 750 milliliters of flour. All right, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to tilt you down so you can see. I'm going to scoop in, and I'm going to level it off with my spoon so I know it's the right amount. Because look, there's actually a hole in there, so I know I need a little bit more. Level it off, and dump it in. That's 1. So that's 250 milliliters in there already. Here comes number 2. Level it off. Oh, so we need to add a little bit more. Level it off again, and add it in. 2 cups, or 500 milliliters. And I think we need 1 more. So let's scoop, level it off. Oh, that time we didn't need any more. And dump it in. That's 3 cups, or our 750 milliliters of flour. Now I'm going to keep you down here so you can watch and see. I just like to use the end of this, or any kind of stirring utensil you have, a spoon, a chopstick, whatever works. I'm going to mix it up. And that's all that we're going to do for today. So I'll let you watch and see what it's going to look like. Mix it. You don't need to mix it a lot. I'm just trying to mix it so the flour doesn't look too dry anymore. So I'm getting it all off the sides. Mix it in towards the middle. And stir all that water up so it doesn't look too watery anymore. And the flour doesn't look that dry. If it still looks a little bit bumpy and crinkly, that's okay. So I'm actually going to stop mixing it, and it looks like this. And it's okay that it doesn't look like a ball of dough. It doesn't look like bread yet. We're going to take this off. And I'm just going to pause you for a minute while I clean up, and then we're going to saran wrap it, and we're going to pause for today. Okay, we are back. I just mixed this. I cleaned up my work area. I'm now going to put plastic wrap on top. Just like this. Make sure it's nice and covered. I have to cut mine with the knife. Make sure you always cut away from yourself. That on there. I'm going to put one going the other way because it doesn't quite cover. Make sure it's sealed up nice and tight. And that's it. It's all wrapped up. And I'm going to wait at least 12 hours or up to a day or more to let it rest. It will grow. It's going to rise. It's going to look a little bit bubbly. And when it's been at least 12 hours, so if I made it at 9 tonight, I can bake it at 9 in the morning tomorrow. if I made it at 7 at night, I can bake it at 7 in the morning tomorrow. And it's actually 11 o'clock in the morning right now, but I'm not going to be baking my bread at 11 at night. So I'm going to just let it rest until tomorrow morning, and we'll bake it around 9 or 10. All right, I'll see you for Jersey Day. I'm going to pop right back in a jersey. See you then. Hi, I'm back, and you can see it's Jersey or Sports Day now. I have let my bread rest, and we're ready to bake it. So when I was talking about how long it would take to rest, I let mine start to rest. So I finished baking the bread, the dough, at 11 in the morning. I said I needed to wait at least 12 hours. So I waited 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours, back to 11 o'clock. But that was 11 at night. I wasn't going to be baking then. So I waited an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours for 9 in the morning. And that's okay. If your bread rests extra, it's fine. Just make sure it rests at least 12 hours till you get back to the number you started with. So if you start at 11, it's 11 o'clock again. If I started at 10, it's 10 o'clock again. All right, now we're going to take the bread, flip it out onto some flour on the table, and put it back into an oiled pan so it makes the shape of the bread we want, and so it can rest a little bit more after we've touched it and kind of knocked some of the bubbles out. So I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to tilt you down so you can see the bread and how I do it. All right. So here is our bread. It's in saran wrap right now. I'll take that off. So you can see, wow, look how big it got. It got big. You might be able to see that there's little bubbles inside. It's still a little bumpy, and that's okay. So I'm going to take the saran wrap off of it. I'm going to put it to the side for a minute. And I'm going to take some flour and put it onto my table so that the bread dough does not stick to the table because it's very wet right now. So wet things can stick. I'm going to take a little flour. I just do it with my hands. I made sure I washed them first. All right, take the flour, sprinkle it around. It's okay if it gets a little bit extra because you can clean it up at the end. I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to take a spatula. And I'm going to just go around the edge to try to help the dough come out, but mostly it's going to fall out. So here it is. It's falling already. I'm just going to scrape. Oh, look, there it goes. And it'll fall out. Look at all those bubbles. That means that the yeast did its job, and the dough will rise and have little air pockets in it. If your dough doesn't have air in it and doesn't have any bubbles, you're going to get a very flat and very hard loaf of bread. So here I have my long loaf, but I don't want it that shape. So I'm going to go under it and fold it over. I'm going to take some flour, and sprinkle it on top, go under it, fold it over, under and fold. I'm looking to make kind of a circle with it, or a sphere, or a sphere with it. So here we go. I've got kind of a sphere. I'm going to put my spatula down, and then I'm going to need a little pan like this. Well, anything that's the shape of the pot you're going to put it in after. So here's my pan I'm going to use, but if I put the bread in there right now, it's going to stick. So I'm going to put some oil in it. It's just vegetable oil or canola oil, any kind of oil your family has. I'm just going to put a little bit. That's enough. About 5 or 10 milliliters, if you want to measure it. And then I'm going to kind of mix it around with my hand so it gets everywhere. Because right now, only this part isn't sticky. I'm going to take it, mix it around, smear it everywhere. I'm going to get messy, but that's okay because I washed my hands. So I'm not getting germs onto the bread. Once it's all oily, my hand is still oily, and that's okay. I'm going to scoop up. Oh, my marker's trying to get in the grid. Get out of here, marker. I'm going to scoop up my bread with my spatula in my hand, and it might change shape a little bit. And I'm going to plop it in. we go. It doesn't need to look perfect as long as it's inside. I'm going to go clean up a little bit and get a towel. We're going to put a towel on it. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll be right back when it's clean. And I'm back. We have our bread here. We have our towel we're going to put on it. So I'm just going to lay that over top. I'm going to be wanting to wait 2 hours before I can flip the bread and bake it. As you can see, my hour hand is on the 8, my minute hand is on the 12, so that means it's 8 o'clock. Today it's in the morning, and I'm going to be baking it at 2 hours from now, so 1, 2, at 10 o'clock I will bake it. All right, see you then. Hi, when I left you, we were waiting 2 hours for the bread to rise. It's still in its towel because only 1 hour has gone by. When 1 hour has gone by, it's time to set up your oven. So you need to set your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Most ovens are in Fahrenheit, so I'll give you that. And you're going to be looking to put a big pot that can get very, very hot into your oven. So I have mine, it's made out of cast iron, it's a metal pot, but if you have a glass pot or a ceramic pot, that should work too, as long as it has a lid. I'm going to turn my oven to 450 and put this in there with no bread in it. It's empty right now. It needs to go in there to heat up. All right, I'm going to go do that. Okay. I just put my pot in the oven at 450 degrees. My oven's heating up. The pot's heating up. So I said it had been 1 hour. So we started at 8. It's now 9 o'clock. And the empty pot is going to heat up in the oven until 10 o'clock. Then we're going to take it out and put our bread in. See you then. Okay, we are back. I've just taken this very, very hot pot out of the oven. It was cooking at 450 degrees. There's nothing inside, but it is extremely hot. So if you are doing this at home, this is where you need an adult's help. I have my big gloves on because it's so hot. I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to go put it on the oven. Now I'm going to pour the dough. As you can see, it's gotten a bit bigger. I'm just going to flop it into the pot. It'll come out upside down, and that's okay. There it is. Just kind of shake it to the middle. You can see it there. And that's good. I'm going to put the lid on, put it in the oven, and I'm going to cook it for 30 minutes. Then I'm going to take the lid off and cook it for 4 more minutes. All at 450 degrees. When I take it out, I'll show you. Hi, we're back. I just took my bread out of the oven. It cooked for 30 minutes with the lid on and 4 minutes with the lid off, all at 450 degrees. If you want a little bit of a harder or crustier loaf, you can leave the lid off for a couple extra minutes. And if you want a softer loaf, you can leave the lid on for a couple extra minutes. Here is our bread. It's in a hot, hot pot. So I'm going to dump it out. And here it is on a little wire rack to cool, so it cools down. And it's making my house smell delicious. And I wish that your house just smells just as good, but maybe a little bit different. So I have here an activity for you to do any recipe you want. Today, tomorrow, even over spring break, I would like you to, number 1, cook something with your family. So help them cook. And while you're doing that, your second job, is to write what ingredients you used. And the math part is, how much did you use of each ingredient? The bonus is if you could write or make a video to show me, how did you make it? So what were the steps? When we made our bread, we mixed the yeast and the salt into the water first, then added the flour, and then let it rest and baked it. If you're making stir fry, that's going to look very different. Tell me, how did you make it? If you're making a cake, you might need to do something after, like icing it or decorating. Tell me how you made it, what you used, and I hope you have fun cooking at home. All right, thanks. See you next time.